Welcome back. If you aren't already following Naked, please take a minute to do so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Each follow means so much and it actually helps a lot. If you have more than just a minute, it would be absolutely incredible if you could leave a review and maybe even share an episode with a friend. I am relatively new to the pod world, especially new to the things that are important in the podcasting world. And apparently reviews and follows are up there on the list of importance. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Welcome to Naked, where stories unfold. I'm your host, Janelle, a once former pastor's wife who exchanged small town living for a nomadic life. The unexpected change in our life led my husband and our 4 kids to traveling the world. From years of being rooted in our small town to the thrill of wandering the world, our story has been anything but ordinary. On our journeys, we've met amazing people, learned their way of life, and heard their unique stories, which has led me to understand the profound impact of shared experiences. In each episode, we explore moments of transformation, guided by one single question: is there a time in your life when everything changed? We invite ordinary storytellers like yourself to share the often unexpected turns in life. So grab a seat and settle in. This is the Naked Podcast. I've said this many times, but it's true. The best part about traveling is definitely meeting new people. During our time in Nicaragua, there was so much of that. So many people we met from all over the world. We lived in a town called San Juan del Sur on the east side of Nicaragua that is the hub for travelers from all over the world. Lots of people come through for a weekend just to hang out, but so many come and they fall in love and call this place home for an extended period of time, which is what we did. We ended up living in the area for nearly 18 months. When we arrived in Nicaragua in the very beginning, it was at the tail end of the pandemic. So a lot of people we had met had been there for much longer than they anticipated, not only because they loved it, but because also they couldn't leave because the borders of Nicaragua had shut down for a long, long period of time. And my guest today is one of those that got stuck in Nicaragua. He was just looking for a short adventure to kind of ride out the wave of the pandemic, thinking it would be 3 or 4 months, which actually turned into 3 years of his time living in Nicaragua and became a full life transformation season for him and completely changed the direction of his life. After we met Cyrus, our family grew so close with him. He is one of the silliest, most easygoing, fun-loving, go with the flow kind of guy who I am so grateful came into our lives. He taught us how to make the tastiest cacao. So if anyone has traveled to Nicaragua, you know the cacao is very, very popular. It's kind of like a hot chocolate, but it's grown from the pod of the tree, grinded down by hand, and turned into this beautiful liquid that is so, so tasty. It can be in chocolate bar, but it can also be in the form of like a hot chocolate. But what's most important when you have it is that you have the right spices, like any chocolate or hot chocolate or anything you're making. If you don't have the right recipe, it's just not that good. But he had the best recipe with the perfect spices, which we loved and fell in love with. It was so, so, so delicious. And beyond that, we were lucky enough to hang out with him because he's a musician and has so much musical talent. We got the chance to hang around with him and sing while he played his guitar, just some wholesome sing-alongs, and also just chatted about anything and everything for hours. He just became one of our kids. It's been a while since we've had any of those spontaneous nights where we could sip cacao and laugh all evening long and chat. So today it's such an honor to have him here on Naked and see him again. I have never had the privilege of hearing this specific part of his story, so I'm so excited to enjoy a cup of tea and hear about the time in his life when everything changed. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoy this episode. All right. Well,
Hello.
thank you so much for being here today. This is like so exciting. I haven't seen your face in, I don't know how long it's been, a year and a half?
Year and a half probably. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I think
because
so.
you and the family were the last kind of part of the last people that I saw before I left Nicaragua.
We love that too, that you like saved that little spot for us at the end there. Just for people who know a little bit more about my guest today, Cyrus is here. We met in Nicaragua randomly. We weren't even planning to be in Nicaragua more than 2 months. And then 18 months later, we were still there. And lo and behold, we met one of the most amazing people we've ever met on our journeys. And our whole family just like fell in love with Cyrus. It was like, oh my gosh, can we just take him with us like everywhere we go? Because it's just such a treat to be around you and just, I don't know, just so many things about you. I feel like your presence is such a calming essence, and the cacao we got to do with you. And there's just so many, I don't know, it felt like everybody was just like, oh, like just one more person in the family. I remember us sending you a video, or
Um,
no, it was the night you left and we sang So Long Farewell, which it's like,
Yes, I still
oh,
have that video.
one of our people are leaving. But what a treat it is to have you here today. I have to ask, what are you drinking today? Oh, do you have a drink? Did you bring a drink?
I am drinking. I was hoping to drink a chai, but I ran out. So I'm
Mm.
drinking a licorice rooibos tea.
Oh, that sounds delicious. That sounds. I think we can get along well.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a,
drinking
like
just lemon water today.
oh, fantastic. Yeah,
Licorice rooibos tea. I really love rooibos tea. I'm not
yes,
a
it's
big
like
fan
an
of licorice.
energizer tea.
Yeah, it is. But rooibos is just like there's something delicious about it and soothing about it. Okay, so before we get
Yeah.
started, I thought it'd be fun for you to tell us a little bit about where you are right now, and like what's going on in your life. You mentioned to me some things that are happening that you're doing that are really exciting, and I know that life's taken so many turns. But before we get into all that, just tell us a little bit about where life is has you right now.
Okay, amazing. First, I want to have a drink of my tea.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Um. So yeah, I'm Cyrus. I am currently in Auckland, New Zealand, out west in a place called Titirangi. Auckland is one of the biggest cities of New Zealand. Currently, I am studying for 1 year this year, acting at a school called the Actors Program, which is an amazing, credible, quite amazing 1 year program in New Zealand. Um, Fully practical and practical intensive for the purpose of acting,
Amazing.
stage theatre acting and screen acting. I was fortunate enough to receive a partial scholarship, and so which made it more available for me and accessible for me to join the program. And I am having so much fun. I am
Mm.
really, really enjoying being back in the arts industry, and basically my time is split between study of on Monday to Thursday, and then after school and throughout the weekend, I am working on my business as a healing practitioner and coach. So that's
Amazing.
the most alive thing that's in my life at the moment.
Amazing. And how long are you in? Like, how far are you into the course at this point?
This week coming will be our seventh week, and we have a 10 week term. So we have 3 weeks, and it's gone by really fast.
Wow.
So yeah, so then I have a 2 week break, and then we have the rest of the year, second term, third term, and fourth term.
Wow. That's exciting. I'm so excited for you. I feel like,
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know too much about, but I feel like this is part of your journey a lot of like in the past. I feel like you were in the arts as well. I don't know if it was in the same realm of acting or in the same, but I feel like, was that part of, has this been something that's kind of been in you and on like in your life for a while?
Yes, yes, that has been. So to give a little bit of history, is straight after high school, I went into study dancing, classical dance in New Zealand, and then I did that for like a year and a bit, and then I went into a dance company for about 6 months, and then I left the company and I moved to Australia to study dance as well, commercial dance, which is like jazz, tap, hip hop, contemporary, and also musical theatre and acting, and that's kind of what sparked and kind of opened up the world of the arts for me with the musical theatre and dancing. And then I had a career as an artist in Sydney, working as a dancer, and then kind of building on music and acting, and was doing acting night classes and all of that. And so I fell in love with the whole arts industry as a whole because of what
Mm.
dancing allowed me to access or be invited into. And then, yeah, and then kind of what led me to Nicaragua is kind of put a whole break on my whole career as an artist, and now I'm back in New Zealand. And I could have chosen to go back to Sydney, Australia, but I chose to come back to New Zealand to be closer to my family. And I don't have a reputation as an artist in New Zealand, so it made sense for me to just go back to school and refine my craft as an actor. And so arts has been in my. I only have really done the arts,
Yeah,
performing arts, and also the healing arts.
that's amazing. And is that what brought you to Nicaragua? Was it like connecting with Moment Collect? Was that part of that, or was that something separate?
Yes. So Nicaragua. Uh, I accepted a 6 month contract in the States as a on a dance show as part of the inaugural cast for Virgin Voyages cruise ships. Um, and that was 2 months in New York rehearsing, and then we'd go to Italy to install the show, and then we would bring the ship all the way back to America, and then do the Caribbean cruise ship route. One of the things about this, why I did the contract, was because I had got to a point in my career as an artist of just I got a bit stagnant, and I got a bit bored. I was still a working artist, but I just got bored of the work that I was doing. So I needed to change, and at that time, actually, I got offered three different contracts, but I had already accepted the contract internationally. So I needed to leave the country. Um, and typically, cruise ship contracts are not a very not of interest to me. But this show was a bit more abstract. It was a bit more of a specialist. The Virgin Voyages were trying to break out of the traditional realm of traditional cruise ships. And basically, what that meant was, like, on a cruise ship of like Royal Caribbean, all of those cruise ships, is they would have like one core cast for all of entertainment. Whereas for this, the shows were so diverse, and they'd have just one cast for that show. And that kind of really piqued my interest. Also, one of the interests for that ship was this all new design, and they also had a vegan restaurant. And at that time, I was vegan, and so I really kind of, those were my two wins there. And yeah, so I accepted the contract. I needed a break from Sydney. It was only 6 months, and 3 months into the contract, we just did our first like two previews of the show, but the pandemic was happening. Literally, actually, around this time, 4 years ago, because
Wow.
and it was such a wild time. Not just because of the pandemic, but because of this whole experience was so wild for me. Uh, and it was literally around this time, because on Wednesday was my birthday of the
Oh,
13th.
happy birthday.
Um, Thank you. And literally the whole announcement of the show got cancelled. The whole cruise ship, the whole business got cancelled like a couple of days before my birthday. And then
Oh my
the Virgin Voyages company threw a whole like closing party for everybody, and it was just my birthday, so I remember it quite clearly.
God.
Um,
Quite the party.
and so yeah, what brought me over to the States first and foremost was performing. And then one of the fortunate things, one of the amazing things why I also accepted the contract, is because we were, us performers were allowed to fly anywhere in the country after our anywhere around the world after our contract, whereas a lot of the other departments weren't allowed to. And that's
Oh.
part of the reason why I accepted the contract. And I didn't have anywhere to go back into in Australia because I had moved out of my place, and so if I was going to go back to my place in Sydney, it would have been to my friend's house, but he had just had a baby, and he's like, "Oh, we don't really want anyone in the house at the moment." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm just meant to go somewhere else." And I wanted to go back to New Zealand, but my family said, "Just stay there and wait it out." And I was like, "Okay, where am I going to go?" Um, and so I had a friend that was in Nicaragua, a friend that I'd grown up with, basically like a brother of mine, and his
Mm.
older brother was my best friend throughout my high school years and growing up in Sydney, because we moved to Sydney together, and he was the closest thing to home for me, and
Mm.
so I went to Nicaragua just because that's the closest person I knew to home, and then
Wow.
that's when that all started.
Wow. So you got there
So
in
yeah.
2020 then, like March, like
Yes, I got there
yeah, the
2020
beginning.
around the end of March. I left the cruise ship at around like maybe like the 18th or 19th. I first went for a week in Cancun,
Okay.
because one of my friends felt sorry for me and he was meant to come with me, but then he bailed last minute,
Oh no.
like literally last minute. He's like, I can't come with you, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm meant to do it alone. And it was
Wow.
great because when I went to Cancun, everybody left, so I was there by myself, and I was like, yes,
That would have
no
been perfect. You would
people,
have had
and I just
quiet
breathed in
beaches.
right. Yeah, quiet
So,
breaches. I was in Airbnb by myself,
wow.
so
Wow.
yeah.
And then how long were you in Nicaragua for then?
I was in Nicaragua for about 3 years. Um, so
Wow.
yeah, I went there to wait it out, and then I got stuck in the country because they closed the borders, and it would have cost like flights were like between like by the time of like maybe I should go back home, was between like because they're only doing private charters were like ten to like $20,000 US.
What?
It was ridiculous. I know.
That's crazy.
So I was like, I guess I'm just living my best life here in this country. So I was there for 3 years, and in that time, the first 3 months, I was with my friend, um, in that environment, which is more of a party environment, which is not really my environment. But it was for me. It was safe for me because I've never traveled by myself. I've only ever traveled for
Mm.
work. And so what that means is like my flights are organized. I have someone that tells me my itinerary. I have someone that picks me up. I have someone that says
Right.
go here, go there. So I've never
Oh.
traveled by myself. So I wasn't psychologically ready, and emotionally ready
Mm.
to travel. And so it took me like 3 months before, maybe like 2 months and a half before I socialized without my friend with me,
Wow.
before I had the courage. And even like took me 2.5 months to kind of accept, oh, maybe I should start learning Spanish, or maybe I should start eating local food because I was still eating,
Mm.
buying really expensive Western flavors and foods and that. So it took me a little bit to kind of assimilate and ground into my current reality of like, wow, I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. I thought I was gonna be there forever.
That must have been a giant learning curve and growth curve. I like it's like the person I met because I met you towards the end of your time in Nicaragua. To what you
Yeah.
came must have been like, wow, like I've just grown so much.
It was. No, I guess in honoring the topic of this podcast, and life changing experiences is probably not probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, life changing
Mm.
experience I've had. Um, like, and also like, I know to like speak to that, like 3-4 years prior to that, I was also calling this adventure in. Um, I remember like 3-4 years prior to that, partner, um, that I was with at the time really wanted to travel, but I was like, I need to. My heart was like, I need to travel by myself first. I need an adventure. I need, I need a flip. I need the hero's journey.
Mm.
Basically, the hero's journey of just being like put way out of my comfort zone, um, and just having like this magical experience. And during my time in Nicaragua, I was like, this is the adventure I asked for. And yes, like those 3 years were like, felt like 5 years of growth, 5 years of training. Because during that time, after I'd left that little bubble with my friend,
Yeah.
I was in San Juan del Sur, which is on the east coast of Nicaragua. When I finally had the courage to leave that, I left to another place because I had heard of this conscious circus movement group that was in the country as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they were inland in a place called Omotepe, in the jungle by the river or by the lakes. And I was like, do I want to go to them? And I was like, I need to go to the beach. And
Mm.
so I was like, I'll go to another place called Popoyo, which is about like 2 hours north, and I'll just call them in. Because I needed to be by the ocean because that's comfort for me because I grew up by the ocean.
Right.
Um, and so I trusted it. I was like, I'll just call them into Popoyo. And yeah, then when I met them, which was for a full moon sober party, because I was in a deep deficit and just craving artists and creatives and healers and open conscious minds, and then the environment that I was in over those 2 3 months were not really fulfilling that. It was like the longest time I was disconnected from creatives and artists, and so I was like deeply deprived of that connection. But I couldn't journey into the jungle yet. And so yeah, I met them. Yeah, I met them. Well, one of those moments in Papoya was I realized that like, oh, I'm running out of money, because at that time that I realized I'm running out of money was the time I realized that like, oh, I think I'm gonna be here for quite a long time, and I was a bit too free with my money, because I thought I was gonna go straight back to work.
Right.
Um, but
Because you're
once I
thinking
realized, I
this
was
whole
like, okay,
thing's short term. Like you're leaving to go to Cancun. Like, oh,
exactly,
let's go see my friend in Nicaragua, and then we'll head back, and everything will kind of remain. And then,
exactly,
okay,
exactly. So like in that fourth month of being in Popoyo, I was like, oh my god, I don't know when this is gonna end. And I'm running out of money, and so instantly I switched into like, okay, cool, I'm running out of money, and at that time I was teaching salsa, so I was teaching dance classes just to make like meet basic needs, um, and at this place I was teaching salsa, which is one of the big restaurants there. Um, a woman that became a friend of mine owned like a hotel beach um, kind of hotel. And she's like,
okay.
Cyrus, have you ever bartended before? And I was like, nope, but I can learn. And she was like, and she offered me exchange for accommodation and to bartend. And so for me, when I clicked into survival mode, I was like, cool, I just have to have my basics met, accommodation and food, and that's it.
Mm,
As long as those are set, I'm good, and I'm grateful enough that I am a specialist in what I do of teaching dance, teaching music, plus also being a healing practitioner, energy bodywork practitioner. So those are the things that I knew that I could work with. Um, and so yeah, and so here I am, never bartended in my life, bartending, and then my accommodation is sorted, and then I'm teaching dance to people. And I just put a post on the local Facebook page, and I'm teaching salsa and other
wow.
different dances, and also I was teaching drumming as well, just to meet my basic needs. And then yeah, exactly. And then like this pivotal moment was a girl that had come to my class salsa dancing was walking past the beach, past the because it's a beachfront hotel bar. I was like, "Hey, it's Cyrus. This is my friend." And then she was like, "He's a bartender." And I was like, "I'm not a bartender. I'm just doing this." And I met yeah, met her friend, and then that day or a couple of days later, they're like, we need a bartender at a sober party to open kombuchas. And the kombuchas are pop bottles. And I'm
Okay.
really good at popping bottles because of most New Zealanders are really good at opening bottles with anything. And I was like, yeah, I can open bottles, and I'd love to be at a sober party, um, a sober full moon party. And so, yeah, and so this is when everything shifted. Is here I am serving kombucha, they're having a cacao ceremony. There's all these like weird artist circus people doing handstands, juggling, fire spinning, like dressed up. Everyone's sober, um, and there's amazing food. And I'm like, wow, this. I don't know. I had this moment of like, I brought them all here. I called them all here because that was the first full moon party that had there, and all these people came from out of their jungles and out of their beaches from all over, like mainly Ometepe, but also Popoyo, San Juan del Sur, just to come to this full moon party. And literally, that was like the pivotal moment of my time in Nicaragua. When I was like, great, I found my people. And then,
Wow.
um, yeah, then I just went on this amazing adventure for like the rest of that time. Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
So is that when your bartending career ended, and that's when your kombucha adventure began?
yeah, basically. Um, Yeah, basically the woman that I met, we became quite close and came into an intimate relationship. I won't mention her name. Yeah, anyway. And she was a CEO, founder, owner of a company called Momentum Collective, which is a circus consciousness movement, which is quite a big name within the circus conscious movement within the Americas. And she was the one of the ones that organized this full moon party. And we became quite close and started to spend time together. And from there, it was like also kind of started me on also my journey with plant medicine as well. Because there was a shaman that she was working with, and they started to host a plant medicine ceremony there. Um, and she just kind of like, who is this guy that is bartending, but is actually not a bartender? And also, she was from Australia, so there's comfort there. There's a comfort of home and
Yeah,
relatability.
totally.
And yeah, and she was like, "Oh, you're not just a bartender." I was like, "No, I'm not. I do handstands as well." Basically, I do all of these things. Um, and
And I can
so yeah,
dance.
I was grateful enough, and I can dance, and I do healing work, and yeah, my time with getting to know her, she just opened up so many doors for me. Just to her community and her network, which is plant medicine, and then also having the amazing opportunity to, because they facilitated they usually do like a 1 month residency in Nicaragua, artist residency, where hold on, a plane is flying by. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I'll just like drink a tea.
Yeah, it's time for a tea break.
Yeah. So yeah, and they do a 1 month residency with artists. Circus people come in and they bring in teachers, and it's like a combination of circus performance, art, music, ceremony, healing, conscious work as well. And they were getting ready to organize their next one in the midst of the pandemic. And she was like, "Do you want to teach?" She and I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And so there was this process of here is my kind of like proving. Here's my proof of work. Here's my CV. Here's the work I do. And yeah, we did that for. I did a 3 month residency with them in Omotepe, and I was teaching dance movement, doing men's work, and then also the resident healer, energy worker. And yeah, those 3 months were amazing and pivotal. And during that time was just this amazing bubble of like, because we were in a relationship for about a year, and throughout that time was like just connecting with her network of collective circus conscious people, and then also plant medicine ceremony. Plant medicine ceremony being a really big part of activation and um, stepping into. Because one of the big parts for me that I had learned in the messages from plant medicine ceremony was basically the message was, Cyrus, it's time for you to retire as an artist, as a professional artist, and step into your role as a healer. Because after performing arts in Australia, the year after, in the ages of 23 to 26, I'm 31 now. I studied my diploma of energy healing as well, and then I also had a mentor for a year who was a clairvoyant and a healer. And so by the time I was like 25, 26, I was like, this is all I want to do, is work in the performing arts and work in the healing arts, and that's it. And so arriving into Nicaragua, I had already quite a somewhat mature understanding of the path I was walking, and then just being in Nicaragua and then working with plant medicine, um, and also because the pandemic, they had like kind of shut down my artist career, and I was just able to pivot. Luckily, where a lot of my friends that were artists had nowhere to pivot to, and so they had to go back into 9 to 5 or some type of job. And yeah, so I, with lots of grief, I accepted that message and that invitation of retiring psychologically as a professional artist and stepping into my role as a healer. And all the ideas that I had were formulating on how I would like to share work as a healer, how I would like to work in the men's space specifically, around men's healing, and yeah, so that kind of started that path, and this deep, like, those 3 years felt like 5 years of training with just teaching, working with plant medicine, working in community, and plant medicine was a big part of my journey there in Nicaragua.
Wow. And that led you into starting your own business, right? Which is what you're doing currently. Is that right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that business was like, because as an artist, we have waves of work. And typically in between those waves, most artists would do hospitality or retail or the odd job. Whereas like I don't want to have that wave of like things I love and then things I don't quite love just to get by. And so I thought early on, I was like, what else am I interested in? What else do I want to develop? And that just happened to be healing and coaching. And so I wanted to build that business on the side of my career as an artist. And as I was having exploring my artist career, I was like, how do I was just like writing mental notes on how I would like to present work. And so when it finally came to this 3 years between the pandemic, I was like, cool, all my ideas need to come out and they need to I need to try them. And so throughout that was those 3 years was kind of stepping into trial and error, and I had the space, the platform, the network to trial and error with presenting workshops and retreats, and definitely this 3 month residency with Momentum Collective gave me a lot of safety and space to explore a lot of my ideas, um, and what it means to be in this space. And so where I am at now is like, for my age, for my own observation, as I'm in quite a mature place as a practitioner, as a healer, and as a coach. And when I've been back in New Zealand for like a year now, and I'm quite often the youngest person in the space when we go to different meetings or retreats. Um, and yeah, because of my time in Nicaragua, my practice as a healer and then also as a plant medicine facilitator um, has come to a really honest, integral, mature space, which offers so much potency and safety for people that I work with. And it's also very different than uh, a lot of other practitioners. Like this experience that I had in Nicaragua is like I always like it's crazy. It's like not many people would ever get to experience that. It's like it's a fantasy, basically. I just was like there in Nicaragua with all this magic of plant medicine, of art, of community, of intimacy, um, of nature, away from what the Western world was experiencing with the pandemic, and I just went on this magical journey of deep, deep cultivation. Um, and when we met, like I was at the tail end of that. I didn't know
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah.
I was at the tail end of my journey in Nicaragua, and so I know my even like as I recall and remember, it's like my voice was much lower and it was much softer, and it's my voice is my whole presence has become even more grounded in this moment, but yeah, really it was like 5 to 6 years of just amazing training to allow me to exist in this world again, in the Western world of technology, lots of people, and consumerism.
Right. It's like it sounds like it would have
Yeah,
been quite a dream because not only were you you kind of just going there, oh, I'm just going to go in the middle of this pandemic thing that's probably going to pass really quickly and I'm going to go back to my other life. But then you're in this space that was so prolonged. And I remember talking to somebody else who was there during the pandemic, and like nothing was happening. Like it was
yeah,
from what I understood, it's just like there's nobody there. Like people, it's just quiet, 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 quiet. And the space where Nicaragua has this way. I remember someone saying to me when we first got there, she'll either spit you up and chew you, like she'll chew you and spit you out, or she'll like hold you. And it's like this, there's not like, I kind
Yeah,
of like Nicaragua. It's like, I either love Nicaragua or I didn't stay in Nicaragua, you know? And so I feel like
totally.
she has this essence, this calmness, this way of interrupting the things that you felt very comfortable with. And she's like, oh yeah, no, you're not comfortable at all. Like everything's about to
Yeah,
go like upside down, I feel like. And then for you to live in that for 3 years, but to go through this process of such, I have never traveled on my own and I'm keeping my friend with me at all times to like, okay, what is going on? And you're literally living in the jungle. Like it's just quite a transformation. I can imagine that must have been, yeah, I felt like like I would like a decade. Like people would want to experience this deep, like unattached. You can't even leave. There's no option to go home because all the borders are shut down. It's like no, you're just
yeah,
you're here, and
yeah,
there's no other options. Like you're here, and I think like what
yeah.
a what a moment of being okay, just stay here for a while. Like you're not going anywhere, even if you wanted to. Even if you were feel like you're being spit up and chewed, it's like no, no, no. You're gonna hang out here for a bit. It sounds like a
Totally.
yeah, just an incredible journey of learning about yourself and learning about things that, like you said, like you didn't want to go back to the 9 to 5, but you're like, what would that be?
Yeah,
And had you not found your way to Nicaragua, had this never happened, like at what point in your life would you have discovered these things, about yourself and about this desire to help people?
exactly. The language that I've been using is my tipuna, which is the Maori word for ancestors, guided me to Nicaragua. Because I didn't really choose to go to Nicaragua, nor did I choose to stay there. It was just a series of events that said, not being able to go back to Australia. My family said, just stay there, don't come home. And it was like there was a lot of grief in that process as well. And then yeah, just plus, but at that time, I also was in a place of accepting redirection because
Mm.
I've been offered quite a few redirections in my life, and at that point, I was in a deeper state of listening, of like, okay, cool, I wonder what's for me in Nicaragua, and only up until the fourth month when I started to connect with that community, I was like, this is what I'm here for, and then each month I
Mm-hmm.
was like, ah. And so I had many, 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 many death and rebirths. Um, yeah, it was such an amazing transformation, and yeah, it's just wow. And like even like coming back to New Zealand, I didn't also choose to come back to New Zealand. Like yeah, that whole period was so like wild. It was here, there, and everywhere. Um, and I like the series of like events that led me to come back to New Zealand was like one of my clients that came to my retreat, my men's retreat from the States, wanted to work with me one on one for 3 months, and then after that end of that 3 months, invited me to the States because he wanted to coach me in business because he has a big enterprise as a business owner, and he wanted to help me because he supported me, so invited me to his home in the northern United States, and he paid for everything. Come over, let's have a business meeting. I want to help you. And at that time, I was like, yeah, had already it was like my third year in Nicaragua, and then I went over my first time leaving Nicaragua, going over to the
Wow.
States, and like it was wildly so graceful on how I just went through customs, and because like at this point, like I'm fully disconnected from the matrix, like my bank cards had like expired in the first year, so I had no bank cards. I had no home address, um, and I'm operating in cash and cryptocurrency. And I'm like, and I've been in Nicaragua, so I'm like super suspicious, like so sus. And the first time I go, and I was only going to the States for a week, I was expecting so much more resistance, but I just like gracefully just went through everything. Spent a week there. The end result was my friend was like, Cyrus, I suggest you to move here and we just work on your business. Stay here for between 3 to 6 months and we can just work on your business and really create a strong foundation. I was like, great, amazing. And at that time, I had a teaching contract in Nicaragua, teaching music and dance, and it was coming to an end. I was like, great, this works out perfectly. I'm about to close up on a lot of things anyway. So I went back and then closed up on everything, on all clients and teaching. And this was also that last time that we, like, during that period, we got to spend a lot of time together. Um,
Mm.
and then when I went back to the States, oh, there was so much just random resistance, and I got stuck in custom for like 3 hours. They were like, "Who are you? Why are you here? Where's your money? How are you gonna get your money? Why do you have no address? You are very suspicious. Why are you really here?" And I was like, "I'm just here to be with my friend and work in business." And then at the end of it, they were like, "You can't be here. You can only be here for the rest of the month. Then you have to leave. You cannot come back for 6 months." And I was like, "Eh?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. This puts a little redirection." And then I went to my friend's house. He was away for that week, so I was there by myself. And then
Oh
I was like,
shoot.
"Oh, okay. What am I doing? I guess I'm going back to New Zealand." And at that time, I just signed a client for like a 3 month engagement with me that happened to be literally the exact amount of money for a flight all the way back to New Zealand. And I was like, "Oh, I
Wow.
guess I'm going back to New Zealand." But then a couple of days later, the same show, dance show that led me all across the world, had come back, and they're like, "Cyrus, we have a position in the show. Are you available? But we start next week." And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is weirdly coincidental in timing." And I'm also already in the States. And I was like, "Hey, I have a restriction on my visa. If you can sort that out, I'll say yes." And I'm already in the country. And they're like, "Great, we'll sort it out." And so, damn, now I'm not going back to New Zealand. I'm going back into my professional industry as an artist. And the next week, I'm in Orlando, Florida, in rehearsal period. And I am like, I felt like an alien. Like,
Mm.
I just was so, like, the topic of conversation was different. And I'm just like, there's so much stimulation, there's so many people, so many technology. Everybody's constantly on their phones.
Mm.
Um, and I was in Florida for 2 weeks, and then we flew over to Italy, to or somewhere in Europe, I can't remember, to install the show. At that time, they still hadn't sorted out my visa, and we had to cross from Europe all the way back to the States. And I kept telling them, I was like, "Hey, like, my visa, my visa, my visa," and they left it too late. And they're like, "Cyrus, you can't be on the ship when we cross into the United States waters. We could get a $10,000 fine, and then you will be banned forever from the States." Oh yeah. And I was like, then, like, literally within 24 hours, they informed me we had already done 2 shows. And, like, I'm emotional because I haven't been in the professional industry for 3 years. And I'm just like, wow, my heart is singing because I'm finally back on stage. And then within 24 hours, like, "Cyrus, we might have to send you home." And then 12 hours later, they're like, "Cyrus, we're sending you home in the next port." And boom, I'm rushed off. And I'm back in New Zealand. And I'm like, wow, what am I doing here?
Wow.
Yeah.
What a roller coaster.
Oh, it was an amazing roller coaster. Everybody that was following my journey, like, you guys were present with it, and other friends were like, "Cyrus, what is happening with your world?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just going."
I'm just tumbling through it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
Um.
my gosh.
So yeah.
Wow. So when you look back at that, the Cyrus that started the show in Italy and then ended up in Italy and then going back, what would you say would one of the hardest things, if you could point to one part where you're like, that might have been the hardest part of the journey? Is there one?
Um. The hardest part was uh, after 3 years of grieving my career as an artist, not knowing if I'm ever going to go back, not knowing what the world is going to do, um, only doing like 2 shows, and I was going to perform. I was contracted for about 4 months, and then kind of having that ripped away from me. That was really, really hard to go through this emotional roller coaster of like, wow, I'm back in rehearsal period. Wow, I'm back in the level of expression of dance that I want to be in, that I miss so much, and then being back on stage and having that first cast connection, and then also audience connection, performing connection, and then having that kind of just be like woof, ripped away, and like knowing that I'm going back to New Zealand, knowing that I don't have a reputation in New Zealand, as an artist, so I won't be coming back to the stage for very quickly as if I went to Sydney, Australia. Um, yeah, that was the hardest part of like, yeah, just having my heart opened and then crushed again.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really emotional for me, and it took me a little bit to, yeah, it took me basically all of last year to, all of the whole year that I've been here to kind of ground in, to soften, to release, to let go, to understand why I've come back to New Zealand. Um, and also part of that journey being back in New Zealand was like, oh, I'm not ready to let go of my identity as a performance artist. And can I come back into the industry? And just what does that look like? And do I have to go back to study again because I don't have a reputation in New Zealand? Um, so that was the hardest part. There's just that
Wow.
moment of knowing that, like, oh, I'm not performing for the next 4 months. And I had a really nice, I had a really amazing solo in that show. It was such a beautiful solo. Um, and I was like, oh, it was an amazing solo. Oh, it was fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Processing all of that. Like, uh, I know you know a little bit of our story, and just the idea of like, you have this idea you're going to do this thing, and then you get to the border and it's like, actually, no, you're not. And that can be, yeah,
Yeah.
a bit of a process to like, you seeing all of that authority being within one person's hand or decision, and realizing your
Right.
whole life is being altered by this one person's decision. um it takes a minute to be like, what?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
how did that happen? Even just seeing all the
Totally.
things that happened for that to happen for you to actually get that call at that timeline and everything to kind of be the way that it was, be like, okay, this is it. To be like, no, I'm over here now, and what is this about? And letting that really sink in, to being like, okay, there's something else going on here that I'm needing to adjust to and see the purpose of what this is all about. And it sounds
Yeah.
like right now you're in a bit of like that birthing season of like the beginning, the starting, of something new. It's like, no, I'm doing the acting again. I'm getting myself in there. It's what I love, and finding yourself back to that space instead of being like, oh, forget it. Starting over can be hard. you know, and establishing that
Totally.
reputation again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
that is totally right. I am at the start again. I am starting over again, and I had to surrender a lot to allow myself to arrive there again. Of like, oh, I'm 30. Am I too old to go back to study? I've already had a career, but then I had to let go of that and just like, so this is what I love, and just lean in and not know what's gonna happen. Like I've done many times, it's like I just go forward and see what happens. So you're totally right at that starting place again,
the beginning of it again.
but with
Um,
experience.
yes, you'll be like, I got a whole bunch of stuff in my tools. Like I can whip
Yeah.
out all kinds of things. Um, what is one of the highlighted points of all of this journey, the last 3 years that has felt like, I guess now 4 years of your life? Is there a moment that stands out like this is the highlighted part, the part where, yeah, it felt like, I don't want to say like the light came on, but something was just like, oh, this is the spark that happened within you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Plant medicine is a big catalyst for that. Plant medicine being Mother Ayahuasca um, was a big catalyst for that spark. And also at that time, I was also just started my Saturn return, which is my 28-year cycle of when Saturn arrives to its same point of when I was birthed. And typically, what the Saturn return represents is identity and structure. And according to my Saturn return reading was, which is between the ages of 28 to 30, is the transition cycle, was um, identity, stepping into two new identities and making money from a new way. And those two new identities that I stepped into was the healer and the musician. Because I've always loved music, but it's taken me quite a while to build the skill for music. Like I've worked really hard for the skill of music. Um, and during my time with plant medicine with Mother Ayahuasca, my third ceremony with her is when I had the what would be known as the ego death, where I went through the whole works over like 6 7 hours of like the crying, the wailing, the screaming, the intense emotional release. I was like a werewolf transforming for the first time, and just like so much deep pain and emotions, but at the same time, because of my awareness of that time, I had so much gratitude and was able to hold it and experience it and not resist it. And so I remember as I was going through that experience over those 6 hours, I was able to zoom out and just like look at myself and be like, wow, this is crazy, but I am so grateful. And then I'll come back in and just keep it with the process. And that basically was like a huge reset for me, psychologically, energetically. My whole system switched around, and part of that was also of the process of that letting go of my identity as a performance artist and stepping into the role as a healer. Um, and so within my time with plant medicine, had really allowed me and invited me to step into the archetype of the musician and the healer, and then also build this relationship with plant medicine and indigenous wisdom. And just throughout that whole time in Nicaragua with plant medicine community, my skills and my awareness as a practitioner, as a healer, and as a coach, and as a human relating, I learned so much stuff just because of being around specialists. And one of the things I've learned about myself, like early on, is I learn really quickly when I'm in the energy field of people. And like if anything, like I'm able to like download really quickly their knowledge and their skills and integrate it into my own my life. And so it wasn't the one time, but yes, the one time, but overall the theme of being in conscious community, being indigenous and being part of indigenous community and plant medicine ceremony, um, like really helped me to develop and mature in my consciousness and my awareness, and um, yeah, just gave me so much. Like I said, it was like 3 years in time, but it felt like 5 to 6 years of training. And like I said before, my practice and how I offer my work currently is so mature. Um, Mature being like it's grounded, it's embodied, it's integral to who I am. It's also unique because the work that I'm sharing is through my own lens, through my own interpretations, as opposed to um, sharing what I've still learnt, which is still someone else's teachings. And so a lot of what I share in this moment is through my own interpretations, which offers same but different. So yeah, so that highlight, that spark is plant medicine ceremony and conscious community, those two parts.
And that was new to you coming
Yeah,
into Nicaragua.
yeah. Plant medicine ceremony and conscious community. Hadn't I heard of the word conscious community, but I didn't know what that meant. And then when I was in it, I was like, ah, okay.
No, I know
And
the
so that was
feels.
a lot of my time there in Nicaragua as conscious community and plant medicine ceremony, um, being in prayer, being with music. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
And I
If
just
you
carry that wisdom here with me.
Yeah, just take it with you. And you're continuing with your business, and that's still part of the process of what you're developing and doing now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so my time is split between acting school and my practice as a healer, my business as a healer and a coach and a plant medicine facilitator. Um, so yeah,
Amazing. If you were to tell somebody who's like 6 years ago, Cyrus, or 5 years ago, or whatever, I guess 4 years ago, Cyrus, who's like, I want to embark on this like hero's journey, like I'm craving something. Um, what
yeah.
would you tell somebody who's like, I was listening to Liz Gilbert. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Eat, Pray, Love. And like she's talking about like this idea where she went to India and did these things, and she's like, really, I just gave people have always been in seek of this, but I just gave them like a label, like I'm on my Eat, Pray, Love journey, or I'm on my hero's journey.
Mm,
And I feel like a lot of people are seemingly people we've come through in our life over our journey of traveling. Is there's a bit of definite people, I'd say like a surge of energy where people are like looking for that path, because
yeah,
the 9 to 5, though it's not for everybody. People are starting to realize
yeah,
like this is a bit soul sucking, like what do I love to do
yeah,
and what makes me come alive, and but it's kind of scared. It's kind of scary to step out in that
yeah,
hero's journey and be like, what is this, and how do I even do this and make money doing it? But if you
yeah,
could tell somebody who's embarking on that, what would be the thing that you might say?
yeah. If you do notice that call for adventure, um, just do it. Like I was grateful and had the blessing that my adventure was yes part of a deep yearning, but it happened in a way that was out of my control. And but that's also been my journey of life. Is I guess like to be a bit esoterical spirit. My path has always been slightly nudged by spirit of like you're going this way now, you're going this way now, and maybe um, some other people may have to do a bit more of like action taking, whereas mine was just like guided in that way. So if that adventure is calling you, take that adventure. Like for me, like when I plan to have children, I will, and when they go hit the ages between 18 and 21, like I plan on creating a travel fund and an adventure fund for them, and just
Mm-hmm.
like here's your 18th or 21st birthday. This is how you can spend it. Go travel and
Mm-hmm.
adventure. Get lost. Um, find experience the struggle and the culture of everything outside this world, your current world. Because adventure, yeah, take the adventure basically. Do the adventure, take the adventure, trust and surrender, and also listen to her. Listen to the woman in your life. Because it took me a while to listen. In my own perspective, is the women, our mothers, our sisters, our friends that are women can offer such deep guidance. And a lot of the women in my life have said, Cyrus, why are you going that way? Why don't you go that way?
Hmm.
Um, and so listen for those signs. Uh, what listening is just being present and listening to a sign, literally a sign of someone saying, maybe you should go that way. Maybe you should go to that country. Maybe you should quit your job.
Hmm.
Maybe you should trust. And it does take a big cup of courage,
Hmm.
and a lot of trust, surrender, and grace. Yeah, those are like that's it. It's like everyone's adventure is different, but to experience that adventure, you have to make the step to take that
Yeah.
adventure and get lost. There's a quote that goes, "A better friend than known is unknown," and
You
so
text,
become good
yeah.
friends with unknown. Yeah.
Isn't that the truth? I think I text you that
So,
this week, and you're like, you quoted that exact same thing, and I was like, yeah, isn't that the truth, right? Like this idea that we will know and feel this sense of like, oh yeah, I know where I'm headed. Be comfortable with the fact that you just won't know, and like
Yeah.
to trust that. I trust that inner voice and trust the people around you that
Yeah.
are, there to give you that love you, that really care about you,
Yeah.
and want the best
Yeah.
for you. Yeah. Uh,
Exactly.
uh,
Exactly. And also
I've
trust your own heart.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
that's yeah, trust that for sure. Sometimes it's hard to clear the clutter, and I think that's one of the things is if you can clear the clutter in your mind and just listen to your heart. I like to call
Yeah.
it the knower, um, just
Yeah.
like listen to that and let it be your guide. Um, I think
Yes.
it, yeah,
Exactly.
that's stay in the peace. There's this quote I love: "You have the power to protect your peace," and I think part of that is listening to that. When you try to run against that voice and do the things that at the shoulds, the I shoulds,
Yeah.
I think sometimes we can get lost in that, and we don't lean into that.
Yeah.
No, we're more wiser voice. That's there all along. She's just sometimes quieter and more patient, waiting for us to listen.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're in the middle of school and all the things that are going on in your life, and to be here and be part of the naked community, it means so much that you could take this time and share about the time that changed everything. It sounds like it really did change everything, like your whole world um, just totally took a different turn, and you wouldn't be where you are today without that adventure, without the pandemic, without all the changes that came with that. Um, Before we close, I always love asking this question. I think it's beautiful the way people, come to their own answer. But what is the one thing in your life, or maybe there's a few, but that are bringing you joy in this current stage of your season that you're in?
Um, acting. Uh, Acting. I am like so in love with just
Mm,
being at class all day, every day, acting, and it's so amazing because it also has interweaves because it's just human psychology, and we're just exploring the emotional plethora of humans,
wow.
and because of the witnessing of so many extremities and depths of emotions that I've experienced with clients, I'm able to experience their stories, their pain, their hurt, their love, their joy in another way through the vehicle of acting. Um, so I love acting, and also I love having my own room. I haven't had my own room for like 5 years, so
Yay!
like,
That's a big deal.
yes,
Well,
I
thank you so much for being here, Cyrus. Honestly, when I messaged you the day, I'm like, we just fell in love with you. We're like, oh, we just adore that guy. We always say we collect kids along the way, and we just like adopt more kids,
yeah
and it's the best. Honestly, it's the best. Like this life of traveling and meeting people. It's something like I love your idea of having a fun, being like, yeah, go do this, kids, and go travel on your own and see what comes of it and meet people and be uncomfortable in cultures that aren't normal to your lifestyle
yeah
and the way that your norms are. And there's something beautiful that happens in that journey, and I'm so glad we our paths crossed and we met each other. It's been yeah, you've definitely enriched our lives, and we have so many great memories singing and hanging out, drinking, eating good
mm,
food, and having cacao and all those things. So, yeah, definitely you'll always have a special place in our heart. I hope our lives do find each other somewhere in the world again. But even if they don't, I feel like we'll always be knowing of each other and what each other's up to.
mm. No, I appreciate you inviting me in to your community, the naked community, and echo that back. Like, fell in love with you and your family as well. Definitely have a special place in my heart. Of course, we're gonna see each other in the future. We're
Right?
gonna have a
As you're
family
talking, like,
reunion with all of the kids we've collected.
that's right. Family reunion for sure. We'll just come find you this time. We'll
Yeah.
just meander into your world and come find you.
Oh yes, come to New Zealand.
That would be great.
Welcome to
It's
this
actually
part
been
of
on
the
our
world for
list.
sure.
It's on the list. Just haven't made it there yet.
Oh yeah, well I'll be
Yeah.
here. I'm pretty sure, depending on when that
Okay.
is. Oh yeah,
Depending on the
yeah, yeah,
change.
yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah. I could be in the
Amazing. Well,
States. I don't know.
You could be. Who knows? We could both be there. Who knows?
Yes.
But anyways, I hope you have a really beautiful rest of your day. It's just the start of your day and it's the end of mine. We're on just opposite ends of the world over here. But I really, really
Yeah.
cherish this time together. And thank you again for making the space and carving out time to be here with all of us. Sending you a big hug from afar.
Sending you lots of love and hugs to you and your family. Thank you so much, Janelle, for having me.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcast goodness. This way you'll never miss out on any future episodes, plus it really helps us. And if you want to share your favorite episode with a friend, that would be absolutely incredible. This goes a long way. If you'd like to join Naked by sharing part of your story, just leave us a message on Instagram or email us at nakedwithjanelle@gmail.com. Also, a big thanks to my son, Mikkel, who is the best cheerleader and maybe one of the biggest believers in Naked, and also produces and edits all our podcasts. I am beyond grateful for him and very aware that I couldn't do this on my own. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being here.